everyone, and welcome to HubShots. And this has no episode number, Craig, because this is getting released on the second week of January.
Another one of our little mini episodes where we just talk ad lib, no show notes, just a thought or two before we resume our normal HubShots next week. I think we're back on to our normal structure.
Now, Craig, last week we spoke to our listeners about really having a plan and making it actionable. So, listeners, if you haven't done that, I encourage you to pause this episode, go back to the previous episode, which is released on the 1st of January, and just have a listen to it and take some time to sit down and write down your goals and take stock of what's taking place and make it actionable.
That was the key point we were making in the last episode. It's great to have goals, and it's a good time of year when, of course, we are talking about goals, New Year's resolutions, all that kind of thing. But are they actionable? And so by actionable, Ian, what's some examples of actionable items that you're doing that serve the goals that you've planned for the year ahead?
One of the things that we will be doing is to really, I think we've neglected our marketing, Craig. So that is one of the actionable goals that we'll be chasing after. And we've already done some preparation in the prior months to this month, January. So really for us, we're going to be in that promotion phase of this asset to generate leads for our business.
Yeah, I think it can be as simple as saying, I'm going to write a blog post, or on this date, I'm going to set up this campaign on Facebook with just the minimum of audience targeting and a message, if it's top of the funnel awareness. Just write some action items, get them started. See, here's the other great thing about having actionable items to do. They build momentum. And there's nothing worse than setting a big goal and then, of course, feeling guilty about it at the end of the year because you've got nothing done. But if you just broke it down and just did one or two action things to build momentum, it's amazing how momentum builds.
Now, Craig, if people are stuck, where is a good place to start if we're talking about our marketing for 2021?
You mean in terms of a plan or in terms of channels or in terms of...
Yeah, anything. Like I think a good place to start, so often I would tell people is let's do a quick audit and see what campaigns we did last year, right? And what worked, what didn't work. And a good example of this is, we're talking to one of our customers, is they described 2020 as a lot of year of foundations, fixing their website, getting the speed right, because we all know that website speed and mobile first indexing is really key to your search optimization and being found. And then, putting the right systems in place. So they've implemented HubSpot, they've implemented their sales process, they're able to track everything. They're loving the new sales analytics and also, how they're doing email marketing. So some real foundational things. What is the next step beyond that in 2021 that they can look at?
Yeah, look, and I think last episode we did talk about this idea of an AMR or annual marketing review. So you kind of need to know where you're headed, right? It's no good just charging in and doing stuff if you don't even know the road you're on. It's kind of like that Alice in Wonderland. Oh, how do I get there? I don't. Do you know where you're going? No. Then how do you know where? So I think that's the obvious thing. Get the overall. And that's why we did talk about having goals. But let's break them down. And we normally divide them up into quarters. So even if it's a time, you're breaking down by time. And then we break them into channels. So maybe breaking down channels, just start with one channel. And then maybe you're talking about a bit of messaging, just one part of messaging to get right. Just make it actionable. And this, I think, is the great challenge for marketers, because typically what happens is we start with big plans at the start of the year, and at the end, we're just doing tactical stuff. We've lost that balance. And the problem here at the start of the year is we have all these big plans, but no actual tactical items to go along with it. So it's about getting that balance right. So getting that, I guess, that habit of mixing overall big plan strategy with the actionable items, tactics, it's really important. And now this week is the week when you've probably got a bit of space, you're not being hounded by clients or stakeholders. This is the week to just get that balance right.
Now, Craig, another little tip that I'd love to share is we often spend this time upskilling ourselves. So myself and our team, and I know your team does too, we do a lot of the great training that's available in HubSpot Academy and upskill ourselves. And this could be, like we know GA4 or Google Analytics 4 is rolling out. How do we get ahead of that, and how do we utilize the information that's available in GA4, for example, it's a great way to start the year, just refocusing yourself and knowing that you have the skills and the ability to go and do what you need to do.
As much as that was just an example of an item, GA4, I actually think that should be on every marketer's list. So if you're looking or wondering, listeners, well, what is something I should be looking at now? Well, there's an action item for you now. And by the way, you don't need to do an expensive course or anything. You just go to Google, search Google Analytics 4, and they've got a whole ton of information. Get up to speed on it. And the action item is add that as a property in your Google Analytics account. Very easy to do, guides you through it. So there's one action item. Marketers, you could get started on right now after this episode. It's going to pay off because it's going to be the future in terms of Google Analytics. Make it happen. So there you go. Get a bit of momentum. And while you're there reading through the Google Analytics help that Google provides, you'll learn a little bit about analytics as well. So a bit of training mixed in with a very significant marketing item for the year.
Now, Craig, if I was to think about something in HubSpot that people should focus on or learn, what would be one thing that you would say would be worth learning? And let's split this down in perspective of, let's say we're on starter first. What would we be looking at? What would we be learning? Then we'll talk about if we're on professional, what we should learn. And then if we're on enterprise, what is the next step of things we should be learning about?
Yeah, look, I always come back, and you mentioned before, the foundations, the basics, just making sure they're in place. So if you're on starter, just make sure you've got the tracking in place. It sounds obvious, I know. Just make sure you've got tracking, because there's no good getting all these goals and action items and stuff and tactics going on if you're not even able to measure it. So the very first thing you should do is ensuring that you can measure your activities.
And the next thing I would say to get started with is email marketing.
Well, it's free. That's the great thing. So if you've got a database list, why don't you send out a newsletter welcoming people back?
And listeners, one of the best things to do is before you send your email marketing, especially if you haven't communicated with your list for a while, is use a service like Neverbounce, and there are lots of other ones, to verify your database, because attrition on databases are running at about 25% a year. And it's a good way to keep your list clean, because a lot of people move around at this time.
You know, that's an excellent point. That's almost like, there you go. That's the next action item you can do, listeners. Do a check of your database for health. There you go. There's your week.
That's right.
And imagine what you've achieved. So you've got those things in place. You've got tracking in place. You're learning about GA4. You've cleansed your database so that your email marketing goes out, and you've reduced your bounce rate. There you go.
And the next thing I wanted to say, Craig, would be...
There's more.
There is more. Let me see the set of steak knives with this as well. But coming from backgrounds that we have both come from, which has been in information technology and software, we have learned to organize and name things properly. And this is a common thing I see in portals that we look into, is you have people on the team. And you know what? I always take my hat off to people that are willing to give a go and do stuff. I'd rather see people do stuff and make mistakes than do nothing, right?
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree. Take the initiative.
But here's a common thing that I see. People will create CTAs in HubSpot. And so we're talking about HubSpot Professional. And it says, my CTA with a date and time after, right? And then you can't really tell, especially if the preview on the CTAs just says learn more. Learn more about what? I've got no idea, right? And you just got this list of CTAs with the same name, maybe with a different timestamp. And you're like, I've got no idea where I'm using this. So I would encourage you to do kind of like a portal audit and go and look at your file names, your file structures, your CTAs, your smart CTAs, and see what have you've got, and create a structure and a common language for people. Because you will probably notice, listeners, if you've worked with us, we're very, very intentional about the way we name things, the way we file things, because when we utilize the assets across the system, we make it easy to find it, but also easy to access and access quickly. And that's a really key thing. Do you not agree, Craig?
I totally agree. That's such a good point. And you know what? We're just having a little mini chat here, but I think I almost want to change next week's show.
Yes.
About what we cover, and it's almost like checking off the basics again. And we do this every year, but we kind of do it just intuitively. But all those things, check their naming conventions. I often go through and delete out a whole bunch or archive a bunch of workflows, all that kind of stuff.
And how good is it in HubSpot now? You can see stuff that's being unused, right? Unused workflows.
That's right.
Take my hats off to HubSpot because they just make things easy to uncover stuff that's really pulling your ship down, so to speak. And now is a great time to clean it up, fix things that might break, because I know for a fact people move things around. So here's things that often would happen, listeners. People will say, oh, that image is in the root directory. I'm going to move this off into the images folder. They remove it and then they discover on a landing page, oh, the image is broken. We need to fix that.
Oh, no, it should redirect images.
Oh, it should redirect.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it does that now.
But if your system
that
you're using doesn't,
right, didn't, a while ago, yeah.
Then there is a chance to actually do something about it. And it can make a massive difference. It's a bit like decluttering your house, isn't it, Craig?
I don't know.
Hang on. Your wife talks about decluttering.
But she does all that. We live in this beautifully organised place thanks to my wonderful, it is, I guess. Yeah, I think that's right. We're both very organised. And I think that comes down to even the way we organise our HubSpot portals. Yeah, organised. We don't want the clutter.
Exactly. Is there anything else, Craig?
No, well, this was going to be a mini episode. How long's this one gone on now? We've just yabbered on for...
I tell you what, Craig, for someone that hasn't got any notes, you're doing pretty good.
We thought we'll just have a chat for 30 seconds. Oh, listeners, we've gone on. Anyway, we're back to our normal structure next week.
Well, listeners, I hope we've found this episode useful. And again, we love listeners leaving us reviews. So we would love you to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. And if you listen to it via Google, I'm pretty sure you can leave a review on Google for the podcast. We'd love you to, and share it with somebody that you know is thinking of using HubSpot or is already using HubSpot and might find this actionable information valuable. Well, Craig, until next week.
Catch you later, Ian.